Hi there. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm one of those document-oriented publishers, that Michael mentioned. And Cambridge publishes over 100 textbooks a year, only one or two into the 101 market, the crazy world of the survey text, and the rest are at the higher levels. And my background is many years at Cambridge, also some time at Pearson out here on the West Coast. And Cambridge has always been a little bit ahead in some ways. We've XML'd very early. We've got good metadata, but we really are working on our content strategy to see where we go next, and how we keep up with how the market is changing and how we drive that market change. Turn up the speaker. Is that better? Right, okay. So in the next couple of minutes I'm going to do a quick sketch of the textbook market for those not familiar with it, and then I'm going to step through the new models and the new kids on the block, which gives a lot of food for thought for us traditional publishers and feeds into what we should be doing next. So as publishers, we've assumed for many years as textbook publishers that students need linear content and they need it sandwiched between the covers of a book, and that they will also have a lecturer who's the sage on the stage, and between these two things, with a bit of homework, a bit of quizzing, that's kind of where they get their course content from. So in the undergraduate markets you have a lot of content that matches really closely to what is taught in a course, and luckily for publishers at the moment, that still is the case for the majority of the dollars that are spent in the textbook market. Okay, I will hug the microphone. The main problem that so at the moment the print and the linear textbook and the print textbook still dominates the market. The main problem that textbook publishers are facing at the moment is that students are not buying textbooks. And that has changed over the last few years. Prices have gone up and they're finding different ways. They work harder at avoiding buying a textbook than I think some of them actually do at their coursework. So new print is still the dominant format, but the average sell-through is thought to be less than around 30%. So if we close an adoption for 200 copies, we feel really good about ourselves, but actually all we're going to do is sell about 60 copies of our new print textbook into that course. Used textbooks account for around 15% of the market, partly because textbook publishers bring out new editions as often as they possibly can to try and undercut that used textbook market. Around 4% rent a new book, another 4% rent from a used book, and these are numbers from a Bowker survey. The rest, which is around 45% of the students, we don't really know. They share a book, they use a library copy. They increasingly get an illegal download of a PDF, and that is a huge issue. And we don't really know, as an industry, just quite how widespread that is. But you probably know from your own kids, certainly know from mine, that they have a lot of free illegal content floating about out there. So digital in this, again from Bowker, the highest percentage of e-books purchased is in languages and computer science, which is no big surprise, but it's still quite a low percentage. It's under 10% of undergraduate textbook sales, and some graduate texts in there go to the E. So it's well below the average for other types of books. It seems that flat PDFs with limited functionality is not really what the student wants in E. And in the UK, it's higher. It's around 9% across most subjects. So there, it seems to have taken on a little bit more than it has here, and maybe that's because of just the very established second-hand book market that you guys have over here. So the e-revolution isn't the main change for us at the moment. It's the number of students not buying a book. But this will continue to change, and instead of that large textbook being lugged around, students are beginning to realize that they only need 5% of a textbook for the seminar or the lecture that they're going to. And so what we think is going to happen, that delivery of that content more closely associated with other parts of their course is going to be the thing that encourages them to move further to E. So just stepping back and looking at what a student needs and how it's currently delivered. We have our textbook and we have our course content. So textbooks, print textbooks, they're very static. They encourage passive learning, reading. They're expensive and they're heavy to lug around. For the student, there's some positives about the print textbook, which is the established second-hand market. It's very easy for an instructor to point them to this content holder, and it's very efficient to skim around, to write in and highlight. And there's if you haven't seen the YouTube video, Did You Know the Book, about how well designed information is when it's in a print textbook, it's a good thing to look at. So alongside that, the course content is still primarily a lecturer on the stage, but increasingly there's more peer learning, there's more active learning, self-assessment, more online material, more multimedia, and it's more fragmented than it used to be. So the way we think it's going to go, if I can move this on. Okay. I'm just going to do it this way. Yeah, usually goes there. Okay. Is that we think the interactive ebook combined with the virtual learning environment, which is what most students are now used to working in, Moodle, Blackboard, whatever their institution has adopted. And this can deliver much more easily the less passive learning, the interaction, the chunks of content that match more closely to the other parts of the course content that's been delivered. And what's really powerful for instructors, and this is through all levels, obviously with the big classes in the low levels, it's a real headache marking homework and the like, but even at the upper levels now, they want all the testing and all the feedback from what the student is doing to be in this one environment. And so we're now finding that some of the e-content providers, people like VitalSource, are partnering with the virtual learning environment companies to make it just one login. You get your content delivered into that virtual learning environment. You do your testing in there. The instructor, importantly, and this really is important, can see exactly what is being done. So if they assign a reading, they know whether their students read that. They can look at where they struggled with assessment tests, etc. And we're in the early days of adaptive learning, which I'll say a little bit about in a while. So we need to get ready for change rather than say that it's here now and panic. So the majority of instructors are going to stick to that publisher packaged information. The majority don't want to put together their own content. The majority don't have course packs or custom publishing at the moment. They don't have time, and what they do want is more content embedded and it brought together for them in a package that matches their course. So for us as publishers, it's for us to think about, in that wider, looking across and looking up and down our lists and looking multimedia, what can we pull together to deliver what that instructor articulates or what their unarticulated needs are. So I think it's really important that we stop thinking just at all levels, stop thinking about just the print, the text. And when we do talk to authors, we should be asking them, what is the best media? Can we use audio here, video there? Is there a link out to some cool thing on the web that will really help the readers access the sort of information and the point we're making more easily? This is going to be said so many times, ensuring your content is findable, that your metadata is very strong at all different levels down to sections. Semantic tagging, you think of it in chunks, and think about the audience and what format they might, what size chunks they might want, and make your metadata match to that. Currency is really important in some areas more than others, and at higher levels of higher level students. So there is value in really thinking about what is it that's new out there that really could feed down to instructors they'd be really keen to get hold of. Is there any way that some of your products could be updated in their e-version without a huge amount of cost to you guys and then delivered again out there, such that in areas such as law or business, where it is more important than others, there is real potential to resell your content by having it all up to date. So the current textbook business model is a little bit different than that. It tends to be the instructor making a decision and telling the students to buy. And we know they have some choices to buy or not to buy, but they also have choices to which format. And the instructors very rarely say go out and buy the ebook. There are some moves towards that, but the majority don't at this moment. So for the student out there, this is one example, Chegg, who deliver and have for some time delivered print used books. They can, I don't know if you can see this, but they rent the books, they sell the book, they sell the ebook, and you can also, from some suppliers, rent the ebook, or you can pay more and have it permanently. So the smallish number at the moment of students that do choose E over a traditional print textbook. This is from ecampus.com. So probably the people that fed into this are already thinking about buying an ebook. A lot choose it for the lower price. So there is obviously an attraction of, maybe in the early days at least, if you're moving more towards E, of maybe some pricing that makes it more attractive for people to go toward that. Quite often it's the instant access, not having to wait for it to be delivered, getting it downloaded straight away. 25% said that. 19% say they choose it for the portability, because some of these books are big and they don't want to lug them around. Only 6% prefer to read in digital format, and I think that's in line with quite a lot of other surveys. And as to how they access information, laptop is still the leader. Interesting, the mobile is way down there for this sort of content. That may be different from what others are reporting back from other kind of content, but for students, mobile is still a very small percentage. And tablet, this is US data, tablets getting up there, but not there yet. So in terms of what students like about e-textbooks once they're in that e-environment, this is a little leading in that there's very few e-books that do have interactive study guides and quizzes, so not many that can say they like them, because some will not have interacted with them. But search is the most important thing. So again, once an e-book is downloaded, how a student can find information. Semantic tagging is really important. Trying to think about how the student will use the information is a really important part of making it useful, so that they'll want to go back and buy more of that. Highlighting is good. They can then pull that out, and they have basically short notes. And copy and paste, that's a bit worrying, because that's probably just going straight into their essays. So what next? The higher level courses will likely be more interested in custom content. The lower level courses more likely they'll be created by publishers, and they'll be happy with that. So for Cambridge, where we have across subjects we have a lot of breadth, and vertically we have a lot of depth. I'm kind of at the low end of that with the undergraduate textbooks. It goes right up through our journals. We have areas that we're looking at in terms of that, where we're particularly strong: political science, linguistics, and those are going to be our test cases for really looking at how can we break all that content apart, all the different levels, and how would the market like us to put it back together, or how do we make it all very easily broken apart and put back together and searchable in a sort of iTunes way for readers to pull things together. So to get ready for that, for quite a few years we were told, well, we can't do it because our edited books, it's too complicated to work out the copyright, the royalties. We just can't do it. And we've sat on that statement for quite a long time, and we can't do that anymore. We have to work out a strategy. As Michael was saying, we have to have a content strategy that knows what we will do with co-authored books, who will get what. We have to have the royalty arrangements easily sorted out. We have to sort out the e-rights. If there's an image in something that we don't have e-rights for, we need to kind of know and be flexible and try and get around that at the start rather than having problems delivering e-content later on. This ensure your platform can deliver chunk content. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but Cambridge has got a platform that we deliver straight out from to libraries, and soon we'll be able to deliver to individuals. It's a huge investment, and a lot of companies just are too small to be able to make that investment. So we are reliant on third parties, and it's really important to know how we work with who's out there, who we choose to jump in with, and just getting a lot of knowledge about what's out there. And attending things like this, I guess, is the thing to really be aware of what's happening. The story I always think of is that the fact we've been talking about this a long time at Cambridge. Had we jumped in and done a lot more investment maybe 5 years ago, we probably would have been out of date by now. It probably would not have been the best thing for us to create our own solution to some of these things. So we're experimenting with a lot of partners, which I'll talk about. Okay, right, nearly finished. So, setting price points, suggesting bundles, looking at different models, whether it's rent, purchase, or subscribe. So this is Cengage, just showing how you can buy the chapter for £1.99, I think this is pounds, each. They break it apart. And Safari, which is one that looks at individuals, groups, and organizations subscribing, another model. And as I say, just looking across and looking at whatever media you could combine with your subject lists to do that. And then, as Michael said, the third parties that are pulling all that content together, like a shared book, Academic Pub do, they're out there in the market, they're talking to people, they're asking them what they want. We, as individual publishers, struggle to do that as well as some of the smaller and newer third parties do. So we do have to partner, experiment, accept that making small amounts of money via these third parties is much better than just not being in there at all and not being at the party. And then also just keep up to date with all these other various startups who now have quite a lot of investment, such as the open access, what add-ons can we have to that, the e-text bookshelves, Vital Source, CoreSmart, Cortex in the UK, and the new adaptive learning people who feed content to students in a way that works with their learning. And you've heard probably a lot about MOOCs and how do publishers make money on that. I don't have an answer for that, but I'll leave you with that one.